Hello, my friend, and welcome back to Fantasy Turf War, the show where 64 teams go head-to-head to see who's the ultimate champion. I am, of course, your commissioner, Corey, on this lovely Friday, coming off an amazing week, a record week for us here at Fantasy Turf War in terms of viewership, live streams, pretty much all across the board. So it's been really exciting over here, and thank you all for being a part of it and allowing us to do it. It's not possible without you. Before we get started today, make sure you are like, subscribe, and comment in the YouTube channel. Make sure you turn on the notifications because, of course, we need your help to get to 100 subscribers. Can't start our contest until that point, and especially as we start to get into these ADP episodes and getting ready for the football draft season, you want to be sure you have the most information. And to help with that, we've now made all of our entire library to date, and then going forward, of course, it is on Spotify, and Amazon Music. We're still working on Apple, should be in the next couple days, but we're getting there. But everything is up there. You can download it, take it with you, listen to it at your leisure. And yeah, it's been an amazing week, and we have an awesome interview for you today. This is Ben Fisher. Ben is rounding out the duo of Fisher brothers. He is a comic book artist / lawyer, which is interesting dynamic, but we cover it. Great conversation. He's got some really cool collectibles, and we talk about Captain America's, which is appropriate, giving that Deadpool came out, and there's some good references there. And yes, I said Captain America's properly. It's explained in the video. So hope you guys enjoy it and have a good weekend. Good evening, Ben. How are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well myself. I'm really excited to have you here in the league and get to learn a little bit about you today. Let's go ahead and just jump right in. I wanted to start with kind of your personal backstory, finding out where you come from, kind of what your background professionally is. So if you could tell us, you have an interesting dynamic of professional careers. So if you can jump in with one, and then we'll flip-flop to the other, and we'll kind of go from there.
Sure. Yeah, sure. Born in Florida, but mostly lived in North Carolina for my younger years. Went to UNC Chapel Hill in some glory days. Got to play Mortal Kombat against Vince Carter. The one real basketball anecdote from that is I in a pickup league got to play against Rasheed Wallace and had a moment where I was posted up against him or in reverse, and he obviously dunked on me repeatedly, but was very nice. Like, he was genuinely really nice about dunking on me. So I like that. Went to law school in North Carolina. And that's where I got my law degree, and did a bunch of different types of law, litigation for a while, eventually moved to real estate. Which was a little more fun because what I found quickly in litigation was when you're all done, both sides are still kind of mad at you. Like, the other side is obviously mad at you because you beat them, but even if you win, the side that wins never. It's sort of like when you're paying the check after a meal. Like, you're happy to order all the food, and once the bill comes, you're like, how the hell did this cost $200? It's like that. So nobody's really happy. And what I found was in real estate was great because everybody's happy. Everybody gets what they want at the end. Get the piece of property, somebody else gets rich out of it. Everybody's happy. Did that for a while, and eventually kind of started thinking I wanted to change a vibe, change a pace. I'm number one, pretty laid back guy. The East Coast can be pretty aggressive in a way that was not necessarily my vibe. And two, and maybe more importantly, weed was real legal on the West Coast. So the combination was a nice, easy one. So I moved out to Portland, Oregon, and kept doing the same thing. And eventually now went in-house, and I now do the real estate work for a company called D.R. Horton, which you may or may not know. They're a big home builder. I know they're in North Carolina, but they're pretty much all over the country.
I think they actually built my house.
That would not be surprising. They build a lot of homes. So I do their legal work, a lot of their legal work on the West Coast.
Oh, very cool.
So I'm region counsel for the West Coast for them. But then, as you alluded, I somewhere in the middle of all that kind of picked up a very different, weirder career, which was also part of the reason that I went to Portland. Yeah, so that's the legal side of things. So I can just jump right over to the weirder bit if you want, or
Yeah,
if you have any questions about.
I'm not sure if there's a natural segue into what we're gonna talk about.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
it is, and we'll play off the how did you go from Florida to North Carolina to Oregon, and then somehow your fandom. We'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, go ahead and tell us what is your other
So
occupation, so
yeah,
to
so
speak.
all along the way, when I was first in college, all throughout high school and the college was a writer in various capacities. I wrote for the Daily Tar Heel, like a humor column for them. Did some various short stories, some extremely bad screenplays that fortunately never saw the light of day. And when I went to law school, most of that was beaten out of me. I would have law professors say, this is an interesting argument, but there's a lot of adjectives in here, and maybe you don't need that for you don't need to say the defendant was really really mean. You can just and so I kind of stripped out all of that and got to more sort of boilerplate, very clean legal writing. And then when I graduated, started missing the fictional side of writing a bit. So I started dipping back into it. And one of the ways I started dipping into that was comic book scripts, because I found that was sort of a natural. It was just kind of a fun fit. It was somewhere in between a screenplay and fictional prose writing, and I was still
True.
doing a little bit of each of those. So I sort of on a whim met an artist online, did a competition, and got lucky and won.
Wow.
And so the little short story was published and was very lucky in that the folks involved and the publisher liked it. And that opened some doors and that opened some more doors. And somehow along the way, I wound up writing comics, a lot of comics, it turned out, graphic novels and comics, etc. And Portland is a huge mecca of amazingly talented, famous writers and artists. So one of the reasons, in addition to it being laid back and pot was legal, was that there was a lot of a community there for me. And that has ballooned in a way that I really didn't expect, but am real appreciative of. And so now I've been able to publish a bunch of books through a bunch of different publishers and worked on a bunch of IPs that lots of people would have heard of. I did the Grumpy Cat comics, if your kids know who Grumpy Cat
I
is.
know who Grumpy Cat is.
Yeah, just a bunch of stuff like that. So I've been real lucky to do a bunch of, be flown out for a bunch of conventions and all that kind of stuff. So that's been a lot of fun. And I am currently writing in Seattle. They're doing this big mega complex experience based on Tomb Raider, where it takes about an hour and a half and your whole family goes through and it's like you explore, it's like underground in a temple. And I wrote
Oh,
all of
cool.
that and I'm writing all the dialogue for the here. So I'm doing a lot of kind of fun, not quite comic related, but sort of fictional fantasy kind of related.
It's cool.
So
Very
the
cool.
writing aspect is sort of taken off. It's been a lot of fun. And my agent is currently shopping around a couple novels, so we'll see how that goes.
All right, it's definitely interesting. So, imagining the DR Horton folks aren't listening right now. Like, if you had to pick your favorite child, like, I know there's no right answer, but there's always a right answer, right? Like, which one's your favorite?
Oh, what I mean, there's no question that writing the comics is. I mean, I love that stuff. Whether it's comics or novels or writing Tomb Raider, whatever it happens to be, that's super fun. Um, the I don't think I would ever give up law entirely. For one thing, it's I spent a lot of time to get the degree, and it feels weird to get rid of that. If it ever gets to a point where and it's not now. I'm able to juggle both right now. But if for some reason I didn't, I think I'd still do pro bono work, some sort of something legal. I don't think I'd ever just stop practicing altogether. So
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm sure it's a skill set that'd be really hard to let go of. It's kind of just in you
yeah,
at
yeah,
that point. So,
yeah,
yeah, very good. All right, so let's talk shop a little bit about football, huh?
yeah.
All right, so let's address the giant elephant in the room. You said you grew up in Florida and then you moved to North Carolina and now you're in Oregon. Can you help us understand your unhealthy obsession with the Seahawks?
Yeah, they're bad. I get that they're bad, so we'll start with that. But actually it's when I skipped a tiny piece of the story, which was for a brief period. I moved from Portland to Seattle. So I lived there for 2 or 3 years, and then came back to Portland again for a number of reasons, not the least of which is Seattle is outrageously expensive.
Yeah.
So I was back and so along the way, living in Seattle, I just kind of became a Seahawks fan. I actually
Okay.
grew up a Dolphins fan, which is maybe more painful than being a Seahawks. They're, I mean, just astonishingly bad. But as I grew up, it was the Dan Marino era, and it was
Yeah.
really hard not to pull for that guy. Like it was really hard. He had a range of 4 feet over the course of a game. Like he was the slowest quarterback, but like it was just really hard not to pull for him.
Yep.
The Seahawks kind of broke that away. So Dolphins will always be my second love.
Okay. Yeah, I think
But yeah,
professional wise, it's probably a better move to go to Seattle than Miami, although they're doing pretty well these days.
yeah,
And at
yeah,
least you have some solid reasoning in there. My wife doesn't know a whole lot about football. She just likes Seattle because of the jerseys. So I mean, at least you live
it's a
there.
fun jersey. It's a real solid jersey. Yeah, kind of like I mean, obviously for college, I'm always going to be a Tar Heel, but it's kind of hard. Like the Oregon Ducks, like their colors, real good. Like
Yeah,
those are real
that is.
fun,
And,
goofy colors. I'm really into them. So yeah, it's I can respect pulling for a team just because of the colors. I get that.
yep. And so I grew up in Illinois, and so college was never really a big thing for us. Like college sports, I should say,
Mm.
especially college football. So when I joined the military, you go all around, and the first thing they ask you, especially in the South, is what's your team? And I was like,
Right,
I don't
right.
have one. And so that was a natural question that I was going to have for you as well. Is you clearly picked UNC. I was forced to draw some party lines quickly upon moving out here to Raleigh. So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
I get the sentiment that no one likes Duke, but
yeah. That's reasonable. Yeah.
but I have picked NC State as my masters, so I kind of
That's a
have a
solid.
reason. So I'll
And
stick
this
with
was a
that.
fun year for you. This was
It
a
was.
they were very fun. I mean, it was sort of painful to root for them in the postseason just because of how badly you spanked us in the ACC tournament. But still, I like to see those guys go. State is one of those fun teams that it's like 8 or 9 years between them being good. But
Yeah.
when they're good, they're really fun good. But then if you're a fan, you have to struggle through
Yeah.
Herb Sendek year. After like 6 or 7 years of just being at the bottom, which sucks. I get that sucks, but
Yeah.
I've got no ill will for NC State at all. When I was in school, I hated State. I hated everybody that wasn't UNC. And I
Yeah.
think with some age comes, you know what? Everybody's just having fun. These are 17-year-old kids.
Yeah.
You don't need to hate them. Like, they're just doing the best they can, with Duke being the one exception.
Yeah. Duke
Obviously,
would
you
be
have a
the
moral
exception.
failure if you go there. There's something wrong with you as a person, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it seems to be where every conversation goes these days is NC State, NC State, UNC. Yeah, it's debatable, but if it's Duke, you already know the answer. Just don't go
Yeah.
there. Yeah, no one likes them. Um, and going like you said, going maybe that's why I picked NC State subconsciously, being from Chicago. I'm wearing a Cubs hat. Like I'm used to having to wait several years for something to pay
Yeah,
off.
yeah.
So I get it. Yeah, that's probably why it happened.
Cubs are a fun team. I'm a Mariners fan again. The Seattle thing, which was a long stretch of being very bad. I mean,
Yeah.
the longest in professional sports, in fact. But they're like even with like the Cubs. I feel like even when the Cubs are bad, their teams are fun,
Yeah.
and I feel like the Mariners are kind of the same way. Like there's usually 2 or 3 goofy, fun players that you kind of want to root for no matter what.
Yeah.
So,
Yep,
um,
I grew up. Ken Griffey Jr. was one of my favorite players growing up, so
oh
definitely
yeah, yeah,
understand
yeah,
that. Okay,
yeah,
so
yeah,
going back to the NFL, putting our college days behind us, if you will.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
You have, and we're recording this. You're maybe halfway in the interview process of all the teams being interviewed. I have to say, you have the most unique, hard to pronounce fantasy football team name I have ever heard of. But I am now somewhat guilted because you said it's a comic book reference and I didn't know it off the bat. So, can you enlighten us on your fantasy football team name and where it comes from?
Sure. It's the Shi'ar Airy. The Shi'ar being it's a sort of a semi-obscure race of aliens from X-Men comics. I think maybe the closest Professor X dated one for a while, so there's that kind of connection. And Cyclops' dad used to hang out with them, so that's kind of where the connections come from.
Okay.
And the Airy are kind of just the sort of the cream of the crop, kind of the top echelon of the Shi'ar. So it was mostly just a really just a way to deep dive nerd reference kind of
Okay.
thing. So
So you mentioned X-Men. So the natural question is, which Professor X is your favorite?
oh
Mm,
wow, interesting question. Yeah, that's you
no
know what?
pressure. No pressure. People are
I'm
watching.
no, I'm just always gonna go old school. Like I like I mean both obviously the Patrick Stewart in the movies and then from the comics. I just like the goofy weird guy who just for some reason decided to set up a school for a bunch of teenagers. Like I just like the old school Professor X for all the other weird like jetpack
Yeah,
chairs and all that
there's
kind of
some
stuff.
interesting days. I do like Patrick Stewart. I might have started to. Well, I was distracted in the McAvoy years, so we'll chalk it up to that. But I like Stewart. And now Hugh Jackman's making the Deadpool appearance, so like it's all coming
Yeah,
full
very
circle.
excited about that.
Yep,
Yeah,
Marvel
I'm definitely
'97
excited
is
about that.
beautiful, so I'm good with it.
I haven't seen that one yet. Where I'm rewatching the original cartoons with my
Okay.
partner. We're doing it, but it's taking a while because there's a lot of them. We're picking up like one or two every night. And my partner Mando they're having the difficult time of me pausing every 30 seconds and going, okay, here's the thing. In the comics, it was like this, and not
Yeah,
like that. And so each episode takes like 2 hours to get through because I have to listen to a TED talk for me for the entirety of it. But it's been fun.
and that's why I saw Infinity War by myself the first time. So
Yeah.
I get the reference. So
Yeah.
all right. So we have your fantasy football team name, and you also bring about 10 years of fantasy football experience to the table. Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay.
I've somewhere along the way I've won a league once or twice.
There you go.
I'm pretty consistently mid.
Okay.
Like we should say, like pretty consistently will make the playoffs and then get bounced first round or so. That's usually my lot, and I feel pretty good about that. The really where I shine is just talking trash throughout the entirety of the event. That's
Yeah.
that's really the only part of it that I'm any good at. So
Well,
yeah.
we fully expect that trash talking to make an appearance this season in Fantasy Turf War, and I also share that record of I usually go into the playoffs with the highest points and the best record, and then I lose the first round of the playoffs. So that's how I do it. So, but one year I did go from worst to first in the same season, and I let the entire family know that you
I can
allowed this to
imagine.
happen. So
There
all right,
is,
so
fantasy football, fantasy sports in general, but fantasy football in particular is one of the things that makes it so great. Is not, I mean, obviously the draft part's super fun, and if you, I used to play fantasy college basketball, sort of like you used to do, which is my brother and I would just put together spreadsheets. We'd get some friends, and it was ACC basketball, and we just built our own league. We ran it like on, Google Drives, like it was just real nuts and bolts kind of bootstrap. Super fun though, but everybody would fly in from all over and we would do the draft and then we'd all
that's
go separate
cool.
ways. It was super fun. But so the draft is all fun and all that part obviously is fun. But fantasy football, the bit of just watching as through injuries or various reasons, and then all the various wire manipulations of figuring out who to pull in and pick up players that were fourth string that now suddenly is the only running back left for
Yeah,
the team. That is where I feel like fantasy football shines in a way that a lot of the other ones don't.
yeah,
Like there is a lot of fun of like frantically figuring out where you are in the waiver wire to like
yeah.
when a player goes down to see, oh shit, can I get that? Like I don't know, there's not much like that. And obviously I'm not telling you anything you don't already know, but that's the difference between the players that the teams that make it and don't. It's the draft is the draft.
Yep.
Everybody, it's a toss up after a draft, unless someone is just weirdly bad at it. Everyone is fine after a draft. It's really by around after the sixth or seventh game when everybody is frantically picking up the
There's
players that that's where the teams really separate themselves.
Yeah, and I'm
And it's
sure.
fun. And I'm
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
go ahead. No, go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
And I'm sure strategy is going to be a very wide ranging topic, but I think you and I are in agreement there that you can't. I would say that you can't win your league based on your draft, but you can definitely lose your league based on your draft.
Yes. Yes.
So,
Yes.
but yeah, what I say is that for the most part, is if you know how to manage week to week, you are in pretty good shape. You're pretty competitive.
Yeah.
My family league was it Wednesday morning the waiver wire process is, and it's everybody is awake super early to make sure because it's important and it's highly competitive. But yeah, and
Yeah.
and I used to play college fantasy baseball and for basketball college professional. But it never quite amounted to the way football did, in that it was like an event every week of like you've got
Yeah.
some prep work through the week that you've got to stay on top of, but then there's this payoff on Sundays, well Thursdays, now Sundays and Mondays,
Right.
So but yeah, it's always been a big passion of mine, and that's why we're kind of putting this league together. So it'll be interesting. This is it's an interesting story of how this all came together, but I think the idea of bringing a bunch of people together to play a sport and share what we do and what we love, and lots of trash talking, lots of competition,
Yeah.
and it's 64 teams. That's nothing to shy away from. Like that is a tough competition. If you
Yeah.
win, you will have had to have earned that. Like there's no, well, I say that, but then there's a few people in the league who've never played before. Look, future me, I'm calling it right now. Someone probably won who's never played before. That's how it
Yeah,
goes.
yeah. I feel like it's sort of like filling out the March Madness brackets. It's the player that somebody who just like flipped a coin or picked which mascots were the cutest or whatever, and somehow they wind up taking it
Look,
all.
my sister, up until Drew Brees retired, would draft him solely based on his looks, and
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
it.
I had a good friend a few years back for March Madness who would pick the schools based on where their exes were from, and it was always like whichever, like the opposite of everything. So it was like for after like a 15 years worth of dating, like had enough exes that could pretty much dot the map, which I thought was great. That's a great way to do it.
That's interesting.
Um,
I
yeah.
can't do that myself, but interesting. Awesome. Well, I think you're in good company with the rest of the league. So let's go ahead and kick this into overtime. So what we do is we've got 3 questions. Every team gets the same 3
Okay.
questions. You have no idea what these questions are, so they're completely off the cuff for you. But feel free to take it wherever you want to. And it's always
All
interesting
right.
to see where the teams end up with these. So, first question: do you believe in aliens?
Oh, that's funny you asked that. I swear, like if the closest my partner I ever come to fighting is about that question, I don't, which is so stupid. I don't, I want to, I'm very much a molder. I want to believe so badly. Um, and I want to believe so badly that I kind of do, but it's just a shred of it. It's just a
Okay.
shred of it. So yeah, like there's like a drop of it in. There's a drop of belief in a whole sea of skepticism, but it's in there.
Okay. And where does your partner land? Are they absolutely not, or are they totally, this is a thing?
That's part of the argument is I think they're absolutely fully believe in aliens. I feel like that's where they're landing. They argue that that's maybe not the case. That they're more like 50-50.
Okay.
I don't know. We're still on the fence about that one. What about you though? Where do you land?
So I deliberately don't answer this question, but if
Oh,
you
okay, okay,
gauge my environment behind me, you'll kind of get some ideas. And you
okay.
can,
All right, all right. Fair enough. No, I love it. I love it. I hope you're right.
yeah, yeah, it's just either way, like one way or the other, I want to know.
Well, you know what? And I'm gonna couch my answer. I'm gonna to be a little, and you're gonna like this answer a little bit better, I think. Then, do I think somewhere in the infinite multitudes of space, life exists? 100%. I genuinely 100% believe that. Do I think that any have ever come here? That's where there's that just like maybe. I'm real skeptical, but there's a drop of it. But do I think that out there there's other life? Definitely. I would as close to 100% as you could get on that one. So,
Okay, yeah, and I think most people land on that side as the like the statistical odds that we're the only ones kind of thing. So I get it. Makes sense.
yeah.
All right. So second question, totally unrelated to the first question. What is the
All right.
most unusual item in your office, and what is the story behind it?
Oh, the most unusual item in my office. Let me look around. I'm kind of sitting in my office right
And
now.
I'll let you filibuster a little bit. We've had some really weird things come up so far, so I would say nothing's off limits. YouTube, in mind, but
Yeah,
some stolen
yeah.
goods have come up. So,
I don't know what the weirdest. I have a collection from the early '80s of like a Time Life books of fantasy art, which is real weird.
okay.
Like a complete collection that you have to like order online, and you get like one every month in the mail. There's like book order.
Oh,
They simply don't do that. They haven't done that probably in 40 years.
wow.
That might. I don't know. I mean, that's you can kind of see in the background. That way. That's an original Grayskull Castle, so that's kind of dope for
All right.
He-Man.
All right. That's pretty cool.
Uh,
Have not seen that on the
and
show yet.
directly behind that is you can't quite see it. It was a from the same era as a He-Man alarm clock from like 1984. So I
Okay.
don't know. I'm sure you had a
Respectable.
lot better answers. I don't really see anything here. No, I do have a weirder one. You know what? This one's pretty weird. I'm gonna grab it right here. Hold on. This is pretty weird. When I was in Ireland, way like years and years ago, way before there were like all the big MCU was the big thing, I went to a bar called, it's gonna be reversed, Captain America's Cafe. It's a
Nice.
full knockoff. Nothing legal about any of this. And the art was, first of all, you'll see Captain America is no apostrophe. So apparently there's many Captain Americas.
Yeah.
It's plural Captain Americas. And all the art was wrong. It was like Captain America punching Joker. I mean, just dead wrong with like Darth Vader in the background. Like they had no idea what any of it was. It was like if aliens exist, they're the ones who
Yeah,
built
they
this
probably
place.
built it. Yeah.
And so I stole their menu because there's no way it still exists. It was sued into oblivion, I'm sure.
Oh, I'm
But
sure.
so anyway,
Oh
that's
no,
pretty weird.
I don't know. I mean, you're the legal expert. I would actually defer to your like. Do you think how does that work? Crossing the pond, IP rights.
They're sued into oblivion.
Okay.
Absolutely. I mean, unless there's nobody, especially now with the movie. At the time, nobody knew who Captain America. I mean,
Fair
some
point.
people knew, but you had to be kind of nerdy, which is weird to think about now because everyone everywhere knows who Captain America was. But 15 years ago, you'd have to be a nerd to know who that was. So
Makes sense. Now that we say that, though, like the owner of Captain America's is probably watching and going, "Hey, we're still around," and
yeah, no,
we.
and I just outed him. Yeah, yeah. If you're out there, let me know. I would love to get more merch from you.
Yeah. Although the idea of Darth Vader crossing with Captain America is kind of interesting.
Well, now they're both owned by
Yeah,
the
the
same
mouse.
company, right? Disney owns them both. So
Hmm. All right. All right. It's a good answer. I
what's
still like the
what's
heat.
what's some what like somebody's what are some of the weird ones that we've heard? Like what else have we got?
So there was one I had to edit out. And so they know who they are. We don't need to talk about it, but it was something
Love
that
it. That's
was
good. Good
not
for them. Well,
YouTube
they're my
friendly.
heroes. All right.
I think the one that's probably easiest to talk about, someone, it is technically a stolen good, but the
Well,
way
so's
they,
this, I guess. I know.
well, yeah, yours is probably like a couple dollars. I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
theirs is a little bit more. It was like a helmet from, it was like a college player's helmet that like they stormed the field and he
Oh,
took the equipment. I
oh,
was like,
that's amazing for the home team or rival team.
it was his home team. I forget,
Okay, all right.
I forget the name of the player off the top of my head. It was someone um, relevant to the college. And
Yeah,
I don't, the name escapes me right now, but yeah, he basically
that's a good
said
answer though.
they stormed the field and he took the helmet.
I love
It's
it.
like,
That's great.
all right. I mean, I don't know what the rules are with that and getting in trouble, but hey,
Yeah,
it made the cut.
yeah, that's great.
So yeah, a lot of them are sports memorabilia or things like that. So some pretty normal stuff. Okay, so last question, no pressure, completely unrelated to the first two. Imagine you can send a message to the world and everyone has to listen, and the message is 30 seconds long. About what would you tell them?
Yeah. There's either the serious answer or the
And
not serious answer.
I'll filibuster again. So we've had both. We've had some people tell some really bad dad jokes, and some people get really
Hmm.
sentimental. So you could take it wherever you want.
Yeah. The not sentimental. I would probably just give a nice long elevator pitch for my upcoming series, upcoming
Nice.
comic series, which I can't even really do right now because I'm not allowed to talk about it because they haven't. It's not been officially announced. But it'll be great, and I'll probably talk all about it somewhere during the season. I'll probably
Yeah.
wind up figuring out a way
I say it
to
sounds like we
reference
have
it.
a natural way to bring you right back so you can tell us what's going on. But
Yeah, yeah.
that is the first to use that opportunity to pitch their stuff.
So yeah, that would be yeah. If it was a more serious one, it would probably be a much more heartfelt TED talk about please stop bombing children in Gaza. Would be somewhere along that lines. Can we please just stop bombing hospitals,
Yeah,
please?
and
Uh,
we a lot of teams are echoing the same kind of sentiment of not necessarily Gaza specific, but it is timely, and it's just the look. We're humans. Like at the end of the day, whatever our differences are, we have to recognize the humanity in each other, and enough with this kind of stuff.
yeah,
I think we're all like, I guess I'm going to speak on behalf of the world, but like I think the world is sick of this stuff, and not to be political, but like one person said he just wants people to stop dying. And it's like, dude, that's like the most honest answer I could think of. Is like, I
yeah,
just want
right.
people to stop dying. And it's like that's the world would be a better place if we just
Yeah,
you know
yeah. That's a
so
nice, succinct way to put it. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
So all right, well that's there's no good segue, but it it's sure to be an interesting season. I think you're in good company. Welcome to the
Yeah, I'm
league.
excited. Is this the biggest, by the way, you heard it, 64 the biggest you've done, or 64 the normal size of this?
So 64 is the largest we've done, and this is the first year we've done it on a social scale. Most of the
Okay.
time, there's an uproar about going to 16 teams, so we cut it down to 12 grudgingly. Um, Not that it helps them because they still end up losing. But so the 16 teams is the biggest we've had. And when you talk about the format of how the league is laid out, you really can't go higher than 64, because then you start interfering with playoffs and playoff weeks, and
Hmm.
you'd have to take away from
Yeah.
the regular season. And so it becomes a whole thing of, do you want 13 weeks? Do you want 14 weeks? And then,
Right.
the answer to that is usually, well, I don't know. Did you need one more win to get into the playoffs, or did you?
Yeah.
And so we found this is kind of the nice happy medium is 64 with a well structured playoff bracket that's 3 weeks long. It seems to be a really good format. We are exploring other things and other sports. Spoiler alert.
Fun.
So we are looking
Fun.
at it, but really just depends on how well we think this season goes. And so far so good. We've been going at this. I put the first post looking for teams the day of the Super Bowl. So we've been going at this
Okay.
since February. We've been going, and it's been a blast. Like I love fantasy football, and I love the idea of bringing people together to do something cool from all different backgrounds, and just especially in an election year like this when there's just so much out there that just distracting. And it's like we just need
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
that's just not all of that other stuff for a minute. And if that means we can play fantasy football with some cool people, I'm down, and I'll do whatever I can to make that work. Which is
Yeah.
why I
That's
have to
great.
abstain from playing in the league, so I stay unbiased. But
Oh, I didn't realize you were saying anything. Oh, wow, that's tough to sit from the
yeah,
outside and watch.
well, yeah, yeah. I do find a lot of enjoyment from running the league,
I'm
from
sure. Yeah.
running things. I've always been kind of that guy in the chair in the background, and like that's how I find my entertainment. I was always the DM, and I never really
Hmm.
played the campaign. That's a D&D reference for folks at home. Um, so like I always like that part of it of like setting it up and watching everyone else have a good time,
Yeah.
and like I find that to be the coolest thing in the world. And the biggest perk of this one is I don't have to do any math this year, so I'm good.
Yeah.
So
That's
no,
great.
it's been great, and I think this is gonna be a lot of fun once we get all the teams locked in and we start the divisions and the was it triple, quadruple randomizations, which
Yeah.
it's a whole thing. So it gets crazy, but it's so much fun, and I'm really glad to have you a part of the league this year.
Yeah.
And
I'm excited.
so I do have one last question, and
All right.
we'll edit this out if we have to. Um, but I do want to address a little bit of an elephant in the room and see if we could start maybe a little bit of that trash talking now. So, I was referred to you and you were referred to me via a mutual friend, we'll say, but he happens to be your brother.
He does. He has the uh, unfortunate trait. Yeah.
So he mentioned your career as a lawyer and had some choice words about lawyers, which are funny and meant to be in jest. Um,
Mm, mm, mm.
um, so, how does your relationship with him work in a competitive environment like this? In the sense of, do I need to play mom and dad and keep you in separate divisions, or do
Oh
you
no.
want to?
No. We've played in leagues before. We very much enjoy hating each other throughout an entirety of a season. Like it's lovely. So yeah, if it's possible to size the same league, it would give me great pleasure to absolutely dismantle his team. Absolutely.
Good. I'm glad.
And I'm sure he'd feel the same. So yeah,
He
yeah.
so I only ask because I've already asked him, and so he said pretty much the same thing. He would like to have the honor of kicking your ass in fantasy football. So
Yeah, yeah.
you guys will be in the same division, and we will make that happen. So that there's got to be
Lovely.
some bragging rights there. So we will see who comes to that, and start the trash talk now. I mean, you can say
Yeah.
everything you want. We haven't even drafted yet, so. So awesome. Well, it's been awesome, Ben,
Uh,
and I look forward to seeing your success in the league. Although I say this to everybody, like no one in the league so far is a Raiders fan like I am. So I wish you like all just a little bit less success than I would
did
have.
you explain, like, first of all, are you Oakland Raiders or Las Vegas Raiders, or does it even matter to you?
I was a Los Angeles Raiders fan,
Oh,
so I was
whoa,
kind of
okay,
same thing. I was raised a Raiders fan, although
okay,
someone
got it.
out there will find pictures of me in a Cowboys jacket, but I didn't buy it because I was like 6. That's not my choice. So yes,
Fair
I've been a
enough.
Raiders fan my entire life. So going back to
Okay,
the going several years without the payoff,
okay,
it just fits.
all
Yes,
right,
so
fair
I am a
enough.
Raiders fan. I lived in Las Vegas for about 6.5 years. The year I left, they moved to Vegas, so that's great. Um,
They have. I will say this about the Raiders. I don't like anything about them at all, with one exception. Their iconography. Mwah. I mean, are you kidding me? It's the best mascot in the league. Like, you
yeah,
just can't. They just look cool as hell. Like,
yep,
if I could take that and put on another team, I'd do it. So I'll give
yeah.
you
And
that. Like, it's the best icon.
no other team has John Wayne as the reference image, right? So that and the Death Star, I've got to get out there and again,
Yeah,
future me, get us out to Vegas next year for drafts, and yeah,
love
I've got to
that.
see that
Love
stadium.
that. Yeah, yeah.
So awesome. Well, I wish you the best in the league, sir.
Thank you.
I do tell that to every team, but I really mean it for you.
I appreciate that. Well, and I do really mean this. Nice job setting all this up. This was not an easy. This is a Herculean task. I know this isn't easy to do. So I appreciate you doing it, and good luck hurting all these cats.
Yeah, it's always fun, and then it's so I used to run a bunch of races like half marathons and stuff like that. I haven't done them in a while, and it's like are you gonna run the next one? And you forget the coordination effort that goes into it, and you're like, oh
Yeah,
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 no problem. And then you're like, yeah, you've got to
yeah.
coordinate 64 teams to do this, and it's like, oh yeah, I forgot. So so, but no, it's totally it's fun. It's always a blast, and I love watching all of it come together. And once the season starts, most fantasy football, right? There's a maintenance piece to the year. Once the draft is over and your teams are set, you get into the season. It's kind of a weekly maintenance. The banter starts to weigh
Mhm.
down, or lighten off a little bit. Not for this. This goes full steam all 17 weeks, and it never stops until the Super Bowl, and then we start all over again. So it's always a
Yeah,
blast, and it's always
that's
interesting to
awesome.
see, what people name their teams and what stolen goods they show up with in the interviews.
Yeah,
So it's
that's great. I'm excited to do it. So this will be fun.
awesome. Well, I wish you the best, sir, and we will see
Thank
you
you.
in the draft, the live drafts.
Sounds good. Have a
All
great
right.
evening.
Thanks.
Bye.